Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. US President Donald Trump says he will impose an additional 50% tariff on China if they do not remove their retaliatory tariff. In response, China says it will fight to the end and censures the escalation as blackmail. European markets open higher and Asian markets make gains following days of losses in the wake of Donald Trump's tariffs. The UK's FTSE 100 opens 1% up, with France's CAC 40 index 1.8% and Germany's DAX opening 1.3% higher. The US and Iran will hold direct talks over a possible nuclear deal on Saturday, says Donald Trump. On the contrary, Iran's foreign minister also confirms the meeting, but claims the talks will be indirect. A species of wolf believed to have died out 12,500 years ago is now claimed to be the world's first successfully de-extinct animal, according to scientists. Biotech company Colossal said it has created 3 pups using ancient DNA cloning and gene editing technology. Tech billionaire and Tesla CEO Elon Musk made unsuccessful appeals to President Donald Trump to reverse tariffs over the weekend, the Washington Post reports. The dispute marks their highest profile clash to date. The US Supreme Court temporarily halts a judge's order requiring the Trump administration to return a Salvadorian man deported in error. The government had been ordered to bring him back to the United States by the end of the day. In a visit to Washington, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets with President Donald Trump to discuss tariffs, Iran and the Israeli hostages held by Hamas. Netanyahu is the first world leader to visit Donald Trump since his Liberation Day tariffs. South Korea's government confirms a June the 3rd date for a presidential snap election following the removal of Yoon Suk-yeol. The cabinet agrees on the date after discussions with the National Election Committee. We begin with our ongoing coverage on Donald Trump's tariff development, starting now with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen urged China to seek a negotiated solution to the trade issues caused by US tariffs. In a call with Premier Li Qiang, she emphasized the need for a fair, reformed global trading system and discussed monitoring potential trade diversion from the US to Europe. This comes after China urged the US to show respect and adopt an attitude of equality, respect and mutual benefit for meaningful talks, following President Trump's initiation of a trade war with broad tariffs. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Huan warned that if the US persists its tariff and trade war, China will continue to resist. China strongly opposes US threats to escalate trade tensions, with President Trump's tariff threats pushing global markets into turmoil. Chinese manufacturers struggled with rising costs and price negotiations. Despite growing concerns, Trump defended his tariffs as necessary for US economic renewal. Amid financial volatility, global leaders, including Elon Musk, urged the US to reconsider, while Trump's advisor dismissed Musk's suggestions. Markets feared lasting economic consequences from the trade war. Let's hear what Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Huan has to say.
我想美方的所作所为没有体现出想要认真对话的意愿。美方如果真的想谈，就应该拿出平等、尊重、互惠的。今年是中西全面战略伙伴关系建立20周年，中方希望以桑切斯首相此访为契机，深化两国战略互信，扩大开放合作，携手应对全球性挑战，推动中西全面战略伙伴关系在新的起点上。
In a related development, countries are expressing concern, warning of economic and political fallout after US President Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs that shook global markets last week. In Myanmar, garment manufacturers warned that the new tariffs threatened the country's fragile economic recovery following the recent earthquake. Meanwhile, Indonesia's Jakarta Composite Index plunged 9% on Monday, and the rupiah fell to a record low against the dollar. The sell-off was triggered by fears of a slowdown in exports and broader capital flight, according to Bank Indonesia officials. And Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong criticised the move as not actions one does to a friend, reflecting disappointment in the US stance. Let's take a listen in to what leaders from Singapore, Malaysia and China had to say.
We are very disappointed by the US move, especially considering the deep and long-standing friendship between our two countries. These are not actions one does to a friend. The likelihood of a full-blown global trade war is growing. Singapore has decided not to impose retaliatory tariffs. Doing so will only lead to increased costs for Singaporeans. But other countries may not be guided by the same considerations and may have different perceptions and views.
The Trump tariffs are not the first challenge to multilateralism, nor will they be the last. But if ASEAN can hold its nerve, staying open, pragmatic and cohesive, it may yet be among the last believers in a world that works better when it works together.
我想美方的所作所为没有体现出想要认真对话的意愿。美方如果真的想谈，就应该拿出平等、尊重、互惠的态度。
In Japan, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba revealed he had personally urged Trump to reconsider the tariff policies. It is vital to preserve the free and open trade order, he told reporters in Tokyo. Taiwan struck a more diplomatic tone with its foreign ministry announcing readiness to negotiate with the US. A spokesperson said Taipei has a comprehensive plan to address Washington's concerns and prevent further economic damage. These reactions highlight growing international frustration with the Trump administration's aggressive trade stance. Many leaders are urging diplomacy over escalation, though few believe the US will back down without concrete trade concessions. We move on once again, and as of for right now, the effects of Trump's tariffs are evident on the world markets. European shares rebounds from 14-month lows after 4 consecutive days of heavy selling. The Stoxx Europe 600 index rose by 1%, led by gains in the insurance and industrial sectors, and major indices like UK's FTSE 100 index experienced a significant rebound, opening up 112.23 points at 7,814.31. Germany's DAX showing an increase by approximately 1.3%, and France's CAC jumping by about 1.8%. On the Pacific end, Japan's Nikkei 225 surged by approximately 6%, rebounding from an 8% drop the previous day. China's CSI 300 index rose by 1%, and the Shanghai Composite gained 0.9%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index climbed 1.6%, recovering from a 13.2% plunge. And India's Nifty 50 increased by 1.08% to 22,409.15, while the BSE Sensex rose by 1% to 73,860.7% in early trading. We are now joined by Rema Hans, Associate Producer for NewsX World, live to give us the numbers live. What can you tell us, Rema?
Hi Thomas, thank you so much. Let me start by, we'll focus on the Europe market. And as you can see, DAX at present stands at 20,039.44. It's gone up by 1.26%, which is about 249.82. Now, of course, you can see that it's the markets are somewhat recovering in Europe, while there's not a significant difference. But of course, considering how badly it was hit yesterday, there's some amount of recovery that's begun in the markets. Moving on, we'll take a look at FTSE 100, which the sessions at present stand at 7,837.73. It's gone up by 1.76%, and that is 135.65 points. Moving on, let's take a look at CAC 40, which the session stands at 7,101 with 5.54. And as you can see, this is constantly changing. Of course, it's gone up by 1.06%, and that is 73.54 points. Now, moving on to IBEX, the session stands at 11,896.80. It's gone up by 0.93% as we speak, and 109.70. Moving on, let's take a look at the markets in India. Nifty 50, the session stands at 22,544.45%. It's gone up by 1.73% and 302.85. The Sensex, BSE Sensex, is standing at 74.269.84. That's gone up by 1.55%, and it stands at 131.94%. And of course, Asian markets were badly hit. Let's take a look at some other Asian markets. So TAIEX is right now at 18,459.95. It's gone up by 4.02%. There is some amount of course, it's decreasing with time, but it's likely to go up in the rest of the time as soon as the markets close. Looking at KOSPI, it's at 2,334.23%. It's gone up by 0.26% with an increase of 6.03 points. Looking at Nikkei, it's at 33,012.58 with 6.03%. It's gone up by 6.03%, and the point remains at 1,876. Moving on to Shanghai, the session remains at 3,100.55, and it's gone up by 1.58%, and the point size by which it's gone up is 48.97. Right back at you, Tom. Of course, these numbers are constantly changing, but there's some amount of recovery that we are seeing in the Europe and the Asian markets.
Thank you very much, Rema. We will continue to bring you more developments from the stock market as this continues. We now move to the world of US politics, where according to reports, Elon Musk has directly appealed to US President Donald Trump to reverse tariffs, but his efforts were unsuccessful. The exchange marks a significant public disagreement between Musk, who is an advisor to the president, and the president himself. This follows Trump's imposition of a 10% baseline tariff on all imports to the US, alongside increased duties on several countries. Musk has been vocal about eliminating wasteful US spending and has called for zero tariffs between the US and Europe. Tesla's shares have fallen sharply, and economists warn that the tariffs could fuel inflation and harm the economy. We move on once again. In a surprise announcement, In a surprise announcement, US President Donald Trump has revealed that the United States and Iran are set to begin direct talks over Tehran's controversial nuclear program. Speaking from the Oval Office alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump said the high-level meeting is scheduled for Saturday. However, Iran's foreign minister quickly pushed back, insisting the talks set to take place in Oman will remain indirect. This is what Trump said.
Having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it.
In nuclear talks with Iran, a day after Washington and Tehran made the shock announcement that high-level discussions will take place this week. Here's what Lin Juan, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, said.
防止局势升级。作为单方面退出伊朗核问题全面协议，导致当前局面的国家，美国应当展现政治诚意，秉持相互尊重的精神，参与对话协商，同时停止动辄武力施压、动辄武力威胁、极限施压的错误做法。当前形势下，伊朗核问题相关。
Abbas Araghchi posted on X, calling it both an opportunity and a test, adding the ball is in America's court. Tensions have been building for weeks, with Trump warning that if negotiations fail, Iran is going to be in great danger. Iran had earlier refused direct negotiations under pressure from Washington, rejecting Trump's ultimatum to talk or face military action. We are joined by Jim Rice, professional of international law in Vigan, the Philippines. Thank you very much for joining us, Jim. What do you make of this communication between the Trump administration and the administration in Iran in regards to this nuclear deal?
Well, thanks for having me on. I think the idea of a nuclear non-proliferation agreement is a good thing. And this is the very thing that the Obama administration had negotiated for 20 months with several Security Council partners and Iran. And they came up with a 15-year comprehensive plan of action, or the Iran nuclear deal. So to try and answer your question very briefly, I think that for Trump to try and threaten Iran at the very outset, even before these new negotiations, and remember, it was Trump himself who blew up the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. I think that this is a very poor way to open negotiations.
Jim, what do you think of the communication that obviously Trump has put forward and Iran has rebutted with, including obviously threats of military action from the US to Iran, and also the fact that even today we've had Trump state that there's going to be direct talks, and then Iran's foreign minister rebuff that and say these talks are going to be indirect. What do you make of this kind of muddy method of communication that the two countries have?
Well, again, the problem with Mr. Trump is he lies constantly. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So, you know, I wish I could say that, you know, Trump is telling the truth and the Iranian side is not, but I can't. I mean, Trump lies just too many times to refute that.
Okay. Jim, thank you very much, Jim Rice, for joining us. Scientists have revived direwolf, a species that went extinct nearly 12,500 years ago through genetic engineering. The two pups that have taken the scientific world by storm are named Romulus and Remus. They are just 6 months old, but they already measure nearly 4 feet and weigh over 36 kilograms. The company behind their resurrection, Texas-based Colossal Biosciences, said it created the direwolf pups by using ancient DNA, cloning and gene editing. Here is what the professor from the Flinders University in Australia had to say about the discovery.
Claim all these great big things and then you don't provide the associated evidence, especially in something as controversial as this. That is a massive red flag. It suggests that, well, at best, they've over-exaggerated. At worst, they're lying through their teeth.
We are joined by Dr. Vijay Kumar Joshi, the former director of the GSI. Thank you very much for joining us. What an amazing kind of scientific discovery, Dr. Joshi. Why is this so significant?
Well, something new in science is always significant and it always attracts us. Resurrection of this dire wolf is, something like dinosaurs coming back. But the thing is, first we should know why these animals became extinct. Because there were certain ecological conditions prevailing at that time. They were surviving, and then due to lack of availability of food or climatic conditions or whatever, they became extinct. Now, if we resurrect this dire wolf, if the body size was large, the jaw size was large, the power of the jaw, present wolf has a power of about 900, power of jaw is about 900 pounds per square inch. So it's a massive jaw, and if you are creating a dire wolf, naturally the power will be much more to crush more bones. The question is whether this wolf will get the type of food his ancestors were getting or not, whether the climatic condition or ecological conditions will be the same or not. But in the scientific field, it's a good thing because someday I may hear that my great-grandfather has been resurrected.
Dr. Joshi, the scientists that have created this and others as well are calling this the first de-extinct animal ever. What kind of future, what can we expect from the future? Is there more animals that they're going to de-extinct in the future?
Perhaps they cannot. There were animals, some about 250 million years ago. Almost 98% of life became extinct on the earth. We are descended of the 2% which remained. And this extinction and resurrection sort of thing has been going on since ages. So the present fauna or flora, whatever we have, is there because of the certain present conditions. And if we bring back the old animals, then we may not be able to bring back the old ecological conditions also. The type of prey they wanted, the type of grass they wanted, or the type of trees we had, or the type of climate we had. So there are many issues. But human mind is very curious, So we go on doing such things to go into the past. We are always curious about the past.
This is the same company that are looking at bringing back the woolly mammoth. So you're saying that there is actually a problem in this, Dr. Joshi?
If we get back if we recreate the woolly mammoth, then we need the type of ice he was living in, the type of cold climate he was surviving in. So I'm not sure. I'm not a paleobiologist, to be frank. I'm a geologist and a paleontologist, so I can talk about fossils, but recreation gene science is not my branch.
Yeah. Dr. Vijay Kumar Joshi, thank you very much for joining us. We move now to the Indo-Pacific, where leading conservative contenders are beginning to throw their hats in the ring as South Korea's government on Tuesday officially announced that it will hold a snap presidential election on June the 3rd, following the removal from office of impeached leader Yoon Suk-yeol last week. Yoon's Labour Minister Kim Moon-soo has decided to run and thus resigned from his post on Tuesday to launch his presidential campaign. While not officially a member of Yoon's People Power Party at the moment, Kim has been polling at the top of the Conservative contenders. Here's what the Labour Minister had to say.
국민들께서도 원하는 분들도 있고 저를 아는 분들도 원하는 분들도 있고 또 여러 가지 국가적으로 어렵고 이런 부분을 해결해야 될 책임감도 느껴서 사임을 하고 출마를 하려고 생각합니다. 온 정치권과 모든 국민이 단결해서 이 국난을 극복하고 나라가 보다 더 위대한 대한민국으로 발전할 수 있도록 힘을 모아나가야 될 필요가 있다고 생각하고 저도 거기에
And Cheol-soo, a lawmaker in the People Power Party who was the first in the party to vote to impeach Yoon, also declared his candidacy on Tuesday. He vowed to secure new economic growth engines, including artificial intelligence, to counter US President Donald Trump's trade policies. Ahn has previously warned in the past 3 presidential elections, winning more than 21% of the popular vote in 2017, but dropping out and endorsing other candidates in the 2 races. According to reports, he is not polling high enough to be included in the most recent surveys. Let's take a look at what he said.
저 안철수 존경하는 국민 여러분의 부름을 받고자 21대 대통령 선거에 출마하겠습니다. 상처받으신 당원과 국민께 호소합니다. 윤석열 정권의 계엄과 탄핵의 강을 건너는 것은 오직 한 가지, 반성과 혁신을 기본으로 국민 통합에 적극 나서는 것뿐입니다.
Crown Prince Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed of Dubai arrived in New Delhi, India for a 2-day official visit to strengthen India-UAE relations. He was received with a ceremonial guard of honour at Palam Airport by Union Minister Suresh Gopai. This is his first official trip to India as Crown Prince, following an invitation from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Meetings with Modi, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh are expected to focus on trade, defence and diplomacy. He will also include a business roundtable in Mumbai to discuss economic partnerships. We move to the Middle East now, where a media outlet affiliated with the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement announced the death of an employee in an Israeli airstrike in the Gaza Strip. Ahmed Mansour, who worked for the Palestine Today news agency, died when a tent housing journalists in southern Gaza was bombed. The news agency condemned the attack, which also injured several other media workers. French President Emmanuel Macron, US President Donald Trump, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Jordanian King Abdullah held a call to discuss the situation in Gaza, according to the French presidency. During the Cairo summit, Macron, al-Sisi and King Abdullah II emphasized the need for international efforts to alleviate Palestinian suffering and implement a 2-state solution. The leaders proposed that the Palestinian Authority assume governance of Gaza post-conflict, a suggestion rejected by Israel. The summit also focused on restoring a ceasefire and creating conditions for long-term peace in the region. Let's now hear what Trump and Netanyahu had to say during their meeting.
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in, but having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems.
Steve Witkoff, President Trump's very able representative, helped us get a deal that got 25 out. We're working now on another deal that we hope will succeed. And we're committed to getting all the hostages out, but also eliminating the evil tyranny of Hamas in
Israel's Supreme Court began hearing petitions challenging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to dismiss Ronen Bar, who is head of the Shin Bet Domestic Security Agency. He cited a lack of trust. Opposition politicians and non-profit groups have argued the dismissal and said it was influenced by a personal conflict of interest. The move sparked protest, with demonstrators disrupting the courtroom and forcing the judges to clear the area. The Supreme Court temporarily blocked Netanyahu's decision, agreeing to review the case, which has intensified political divisions and protests amid ongoing tensions over the Gaza war. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from across the world.